This is Charlie Kitchen, and you're listening to Pro Lacrosse Talk.
Right off the bat, there's Lyle Thompson.
Courier, Logan.
Carly O'Miller showing off those shifty skills.
Driver driving hard down the alley, and he scores.
What a goal from Josh Byrne.
Caleb Trainer slips and scores.
You're kidding me.
By Dylan Ward. Gets topside Rambo, scores!
Welcome to Pro Lacrosse Talk, your go-to podcast for interviews with professional players, coaches, and executives, as well as the latest news and analysis from all three professional lacrosse leagues. Now, here are your hosts, Adam Moore and Hutton Jackson.
What's up, Pro Lacrosse fans? Welcome to another edition of Pro Lacrosse Talk presented by Fanatics. Reminder to visit prolacrossetalk.com/NLL shop or prolacrossetalk.com/NLL shop-CA for your official NLL team gear. I'm your host, Hutton Jackson, joined by my co-host, Adam Moore. As always, we welcome everyone listening on Spotify, as well as those watching on Spotify or YouTube in video format. Adam, we had a PLL trade 2 weeks ago. We get another one this week coming on this Thursday when we're recording. We've got a few more player movement, not as big as 2 weeks ago, but still some stuff. We're going to talk NLL as well in the busiest week of the NLL, 7 games and all 14 teams playing. So we're going to discuss that a little bit later. We also got an interview with Charlie Kitchen. But as I mentioned, let's kind of go right off the bat with this PLL news. I'll start with Alex Rode getting picked up by the Atlas. They had another goaltender. Now, we talked about last episode, good problem to have, I would say, of having Kincannon and Colarusso on your roster. Now they had another goalie in Alex Rode, who played pretty well at Virginia, back-to-back champion. So that makes things a little bit interesting. We'll get a little bit more into that. Noah Rack was grabbed by the Waterdogs, and Ben McIntosh was moved to the holdout list, so he won't play this summer. And then probably the biggest was the trade of Stephen Kelly to the Cannons. He goes to the Cannons with a third-round pick. It's the Archers' 20th overall pick, and in exchange, the Archers get the Cannons' 18th overall pick, their third-rounder, and their fourth-rounder, the 29th pick. So adding a little bit of draft capital. I think it's more telling for the Archers that they plan to either ride with Gaffney or add, a face-off guy in this draft, which they certainly have the capability to do, where the Cannons, I think, I don't know if this is a long-term fix, but I think they're going to probably feel pretty comfortable going with Kelly, in a combination of him and Fowler. Fowler's healthy to go, which we saw on the Archers previous 2 seasons. So it's not that it hasn't worked, but still not sure it's the answer, just going off the fact that Stephen Kelly has not cracked 50% in a season yet. He was 46% last year. So fluctuating between that 46-49% range. Let's start off this trade of Stephen Kelly going to the Cannons, reported by Ty Zanders.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the Cannons, it's not much to give up for a guy that has done well in the past in specific situations. So I don't see why it's an issue. And, for the Archers, it didn't seem like he was their guy. So to add a little bit more to their draft arsenal, I think it really did make sense for both sides. I agree. I don't know if it's the long-term answers for the Cannons, but for both sides, it seems to make sense at the moment.
Yeah, no, and I know when I talked to Sam Long, he was on one of our episodes a few weeks back, and we talked about this potential revolving door, this carousel of face-off guys. Do you think this might be a domino effect that results in potentially, we saw Kyle Gallagher get picked up by the Chrome. Do you think they're going to go with him and Connor Farrell, or do you think Connor Farrell maybe gets moved and the Archers actually try to make a move for a face-off guy already on a PLL roster? Or do you think they're kind of showing their hand that they're planning on taking a face-off guy in the draft?
I think they're keeping their options open at the moment. I do think that the draft is probably the route that they're going to go, just based off of, previous offseason conversations, right? Last year, I feel like we were talking about, if the Archers picked up a face-off guy that could really kind of move the needle, that would be a big part of a championship run for them. And I think same could be said for this past season. So I think as much of a showing of a hand as it is, I feel like it's a hand that we've been seeing for a little while now, right? So I don't think it's that big of a tell for something we probably already were told.
Yeah, no, I agree. I tend to think probably the draft, but the fact that Mike Sisselberger, who's arguably the top faceoff prospect, once he comes out of college, isn't going to be available this draft leads me to believe that there could, like you said, keeping their options open, there could be a move maybe for a guy that's already on a roster. We saw Drew Simino jump around a little bit. But like at the end of the day, I don't think the Cannons or the Archers are going to solve their problems at the face-off stripe in one foul swoop, kind of like the Redwoods were able to do with TD Erlin last year. You know, I think TD is kind of a generational talent. And I think Sisselberger could kind of fit that, you know, when he is available in the draft next year. But as of right now, I think that's why the Cannons are maybe hoping, hey, you know, this will be a stopgap with Stephen Kelly and Brendan Fowler. It's worked in the past having those two play, you know, kind of as a tandem. So I see them also probably just leaning in the draft. And we think Connor Gaffney can, you know, play up to his potential as well. I think he's obviously a solid. We mentioned Sisselberger, another Lehigh product, and Gaffney, who did really, really well as well when he was at Lehigh. So sure enough, like he could come in and amaze us too. He got a few games under his belt last year, but a lot of it's just, you know, getting reps in this league. It is a tough league to play with some of these top face-off guys. But yeah, definitely, I don't think it's the complete fix for the Cannons. I like the move just to kind of change things up. And, you know, they didn't really have as many options in the draft as say the Archers do. So I think it's probably their best bet. Let's go back to Road a little bit. What do you think? Does this kind of change your opinion on when we last talked about, you know, them keeping Kincannon and Colarusso on the roster? Or does it kind of, you know, do you think maybe one of them is going to be on the trading block? Or do you think you're still, you know, set on keeping all three of those guys now on a roster and just having them compete at camp?
Yeah, I think competition breeds success, and bringing in a guy that had so much success at Virginia, winning national championships. I think he's second all time in terms of saves at Virginia. And when you talk about the goalies that have come through and played for the Wahoos, I really think that says a lot. So yeah, I'm excited to see him compete in training camp, and I'm really excited to see what footage and coverage of training camp this summer looks like. I really love to see some you know, in-depth coverage of that, which I'm looking forward to from the league. So definitely think he has the capabilities of playing in the PLL and winning a roster spot. So whether it's with the Atlas or another squad as a backup, I'm really interested to see how training camp goes for him. And, you know, in other sports, we see quarterbacks play really well in the preseason, right? And then get picked up or traded to another team because of that success. So Coach Rubio is one to kind of compile draft assets, as we've seen, and really turn those into something successful. So why not find success on the waiver wire and adding a proven guy in college like Alex Rode?
No, yeah, I agree. And to use your football analogy, I think a lot of it, you know, with the quarterback carousel is similar with goalies. I think there's a lot of talented goalies in this league that are unfortunately backups because there are so few teams. Whereas on the flip side with the faceoffs, I think it's more of the kickers where, you know, there's some top elite guys out there on teams that have cemented their roles on the spot, but the rest of them are kind of, you know, bouncing around a little bit, trying to find their footing. And that's kind of, you know, the nature, I think, of professional lacrosse right now is, you know, there's not as much elite face-off guys, at least compared to, you know, in this league. On the flip side, there's a lot of elite goalies in this league. So many that, you know, you have guys like Brian Phipps, you know, in a backup role. Obviously he earned a starting spot at the end of last year. We can expect him to probably be a backup again heading into this season. You know, maybe he'll win the spot. You know, we don't write him off yet, but you know, we know Bernlohr is their future goaltender of the future. But yeah, I think that's a good comparison, you know, to use a football analogy. That wraps up our PLL discussion. We have a lot to talk about in the NLL, including the FireWolves improving to now to 3-2 on a 3-game win streak. We got to speak to one of them in their rookie, Charlie Kitchen, who got picked up by the Waterdogs, as we mentioned on our last podcast. So happy to have him on. So let's toss our interview with Charlie. Today on Pro Lacrosse Talk, we are lucky to be joined by Charlie Kitchen, ready forward with the Albany FireWolves in the NLL and recently acquired by the Waterdogs in the PLL. Charlie, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks. Really excited to be here.
Absolutely. Let's start off with this recent FireWolves win. You scored 2 goals in the game against the Thunderbirds, which saw you also improve to 3-2 on the season and hand Halifax their first loss of the season. Have you guys really come together during this 3-game win streak?
So we were like 0-2 in 2021, and in 2022 we've been 3-0. Luckily they had some guys out, but we've just really been building character and chemistry together with everything going on. I'm just lucky that those guys are trusting me and putting the ball in my stick.
Yeah, and obviously we'll dive more into your pro career a little bit, but we always love starting with our guests on kind of the roots of the game for them. So when did you first pick up a stick?
It was right when kid pitch started happening in baseball, whatever age that is, 7 or 8, and I just didn't want to get hit by a baseball, so that's when I picked up a lacrosse stick.
Awesome. And went to St. Augustine Prep in Jersey. I think there I work in college admissions, and whenever I would visit, they have the best logo. Your Hermits logo at St. Augustine was one of my favorite logos, I think, of all time. Talk about playing there.
Yeah. So my coach, JC Valori, played at Delaware. He played with John Grant, actually. So he's the head coach there. I played in a little youth program in the summer called South Shore for him. And then I just kind of found out that was the place for me over my public high school, which pretty funny wise, I can jump a fence and I'm on my high school, like my public high school.
Nice.
And I decided to drive an hour to school every day. So that was my decision. But I absolutely loved it. The Hermits, best caveman ever. If I could do it again, I would. We were always really good. Good for Jersey at least. So we always had a bunch of D1 commits. Like we had guys go to Michigan. My brother played at Hofstra. He's a year older than me. And yeah, it was just the best opportunity for kids in South Jersey that wanted to elevate their game and get a good opportunity to play in college. So yeah, it was awesome. I loved it.
That's great. And obviously you made that connection with coach, and then you followed along in your coach's footsteps on your way to Delaware, where you played for Coach Ben DeLuca, finished second all time in CAA history in career points with 239. So talk about your time with the Blue Hens.
So, wow, what a ride, huh? First year I had Coach Shills, Coach Shillinglaw.
Yep.
Was there for 39 years.
Yep.
Dude, nuts. I loved him. He was kind of the main reason why I went there.
Yep.
It was just a sick opportunity. I mean, just recruiting wise for me, I was a late bloomer. I grew my senior, like going into my senior year. So I was like 5'9", 140 pounds as like a junior in high school. And then I ended up being 6'4", 210 my senior year. Everyone's like, where the hell did this come from? So like, I didn't really get too many looks recruiting wise. Like I talked to a couple Ivies and a couple different schools, but I found like Delaware's probably the best opportunity for me. So did that, went to Delaware, and I was like, if I love it, I love it. If not, I could just go somewhere else, Yeah. So I ended up I got an opportunity to play my first year, and I absolutely loved it. So I was like, I got to go back. Mm-hmm. And then I go back and just same thing, love it even more. But the kicker is we got a new coach, Ben DeLuca and Cornell, but like one of the best coaches. I'm like, oh God, I've heard great things about him, but I heard he runs everyone so bad. So I'm like, dude, I got to get in shape. I'm so screwed. So he comes in my sophomore year, and I end up like not getting in shape that summer. And I come in and tear both of my hips by the end of the spring. And I'm like, dude, this is brutal. I'm built like a German Shepherd. This sucks. So I get one labrum surgery done, and the other one I'm just like, yeah, it's not that bad. We'll just deal with that another day. And that's still not repaired now. So it is what it is. So I've just that's the biggest injury I've kind of had to deal with in my college career. But just moving on, like, and being more broad now, we went from going 7-8 my first 2 years. So Shills last year we went 7-8. Coach DeLuca's first year we went 7-8, and then ever since then we're way more than above 500. I think we've been like 10-5, 10-5, and 10-3. I think we went. But what's pretty cool is I get to continue my career with like guys that are also Blue Hens, like Brett Manny, and now I have to make the team obviously, but with the Waterdogs, Matt DeLuca, he's on that team. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to see guys that play at Delaware, and I get to continue my career with them. But if I could do it all over again, Delaware would be the place I'd be 100%. I loved it, everything about it.
That's awesome. Coach Shillinglaw had the meanest stash I think I've ever seen of a lacrosse coach. That thing was raging.
The stash is so sick. We got a T-shirt printed of like his face and stash, like when he retired. It was like Delaware across the front, and the back is just his head and a stash.
That's amazing.
It's sick.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I work game ops at Towson and saw you guys take them on one of your last games of your senior year. you lit it up. I think you had like 6-7 points in that one. Now you're a blast to watch in person. You guys look like you're having a lot of fun out there.
Oh, thanks, man. That sucks though. We never liked Towson, unfortunately. We are the biggest fans.
Well, I could tell based off of how the game was going for sure.
But moving on now to the pro side of things, we'll get into the Waterdogs a little bit, as you mentioned. But let's go. You kind of have an interesting journey on how you made it into the NLL. You were drafted by New England Black Wolves before they moved to Albany. Then you ended up getting drafted in the expansion draft to Panther City. They flew you out there. You did a lot of promo shoots. Then you got traded back to the FireWolves. Discuss, your back and forth journey leading up to before you even made your NLL debut.
So it's actually pretty funny. Well, even how I just got this opportunity. So I played one summer in 2019 for the Toronto Beaches, and that was all set up basically by me going up to a Canadian teammate at Delaware, and I was just like, "Yo, man, get me to Canada for the summer. That's all I want to do. I want an opportunity to play professionally." So I was like, "Sure, man. I'll make some calls and see what I can do." Sure enough, I talked to Clem Durazio, and he gets me up to Toronto for the summer. So that was sick. And then I had an okay summer. I mean, I still have so much to learn, and I had a lot to learn there, but played good enough to have them draft me. So I got drafted to New England in 2020 fall. Got all these like sweatshirts. I got these hats. I'm like, this is sick. I love it. And then I heard they moved, and I was like, no, I just bought all this stuff. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna look into their apparel and everything. And then in the summer, boom, get picked up in expansion. I'm like, dude, I did not know I was this popular. And then, so they're like flying me down to Fort Worth. I'm so excited. Like, I love their colors. I loved Fort Worth area too. And then, like training camp goes by, and like we ended up scrimmaging Albany when I was on Panther City. And it was funny because 3 days after that scrimmage, boom, I'm back in Albany. So it's like, holy dude, I haven't played one game and I've been on 3 separate teams. This is nuts. So it just shows like how much this coaching staff is kind of dedicated to me and how much they want to build me as a player, because I have so much to learn. I'm really dedicated and excited to learn about it. And it's cool that they're so bought in to teaching me the game and growing me as a player. So I'm really happy to be with Albany.
No, for sure. And, you mentioned you played for the Toronto Beaches. Glenn Clark was your coach there. That's kind of how you had that connection. Talk about, being, I guess you could say, reunited with him now on this Albany FireWolves team, and how much, he's impacted you. I
mean, he's a defensive coach, but damn, he gives some sick speeches. Like, he is really inspiring. And he's very serious. He's not a guy you can take lightly as well. Like, everything he says, he means, and he backs it with all his might. So I mean, I just totally would love to keep playing for him as long as I could. When we got basically blown out by Rochester, there were some words that really inspired the guys after that game. Like there was no way we were going to play bad again, So he's just a really, really great coach. I mean, he's a defensive coach, but the little tips he gives me offensively are really awesome. Even if it's just coming down to like pick play or just the way you run onto the floor. Like, he has really good tips, and he's always helping out constantly, and he's always sticking up for his guys as well. So he's just a great guy to play for.
No, absolutely. And talk a little bit too about, just the adjustments you've had to make. Obviously you only had 1 season of box lacrosse under your belt. How have you seen your game kind of improve as you play more and more?
Well, this game is totally different, man. It is totally different. It's like going from, I don't even know what comparison to make, but I've even had to change my stick. It's like that different. So I think it's much more of a IQ skilled based game, rather than just having to be like a freak athlete. I mean, obviously it helps, but you definitely have to know the game through and through, and definitely need to have the stick skills to be able to finish those in tight catches, or even just being able to pick a spot on the net. Because what is it, like a 4x4? See, I don't even know the dimension. It's like a 4x4, and with these huge goalies, So it's like, it's so crazy, but I love it. I mean, I absolutely love it. So it's so much fun, and I'm just really glad I'm getting this opportunity.
Yeah, and talk a little bit more about that Blue Hen connection. You mentioned playing with Brett Manny now in Albany. How much has he helped you?
So Brett's always been a beauty, man. He's always come to Delaware and just like gave speeches and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really nice like to see this different side of him. Because I was just like looked up to him like Brett Manny. This guy's played pro field, pro box. He's so cool, you know. So it's funny just seeing him in the locker room like joking around and stuff, because I'm just like, dude, I used to see you in a different light. This is funny how we got here. But he's been awesome. He's been nothing short of amazing. He's a great leader. He does his work beyond the field, and he's just totally bought into all the guys and everyone in the locker room. So I mean, he's been nothing short but amazing.
No, it's awesome. And, you know, you hinted at the Waterdogs, you know, you were just picked up by them. You weren't drafted last summer. So, you know, kind of probably felt like you were missing out a little bit. Does that drive you a little bit now to, you know, kind of make this Waterdogs team and talk about just your excitement to get an opportunity to play pro field?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a dream of mine to play pro field as a kid. So just that the fact I have a chance now is so cool. And obviously it's going to drive me even more because I get that chance. But I'm just really grateful for it, you know. It's almost like I'm this close to achieving that 7-year-old's dream, and it's going to keep pushing me and pushing me and pushing me until I actually get it. So I'm just really excited to have the chance, and I got 4 months to really get my game together without playing a field season. So it's going to be interesting on how I can like adapt and train differently, so I can really get ready for it. But I'm really excited for the challenge.
Absolutely. And, you know, the box skills tend to transfer pretty well. We're seeing obviously a lot of players playing in both leagues. Have you had any conversations with some of your fellow Waterdogs? You know, you mentioned Matt DeLuca, obviously a fellow Blue Hen that you played with, or, you know, with Coach Andy Copeland himself. Any conversations so far?
Yeah. So I talked to my buddy Matt. I talked to him a bunch because I was just like, I was just shooting him texts before this even happened. I'm like, dude, is there any way you could get me a chance? Just get me a shot. Like, sorry to be annoying, but please help. And he's like, dude, I'll do what I can do. Like, I'll just put in a word. And that word carried pretty damn far and got me this opportunity, which is pretty sick. I talked to Coach Copeland as well. I talked to him like a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago now. And yeah, it was funny, the phone call that I got. So, I mean, he's like, hey, we're looking at you in the player pool, because he's the coach of Fairfield, right? So he's like, you beat up at me at Fairfield, and I hope we can team up. So that'd be really nice. I thought it was pretty funny. But that's really the only words we exchanged. And then after that phone call, I got a text like 5 p.m. that same day, and I was not expecting it, but he's like, welcome to the team. I'm like, holy, that was quick.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just stunned for a minute when I got that text, and yeah, I got right to work.
No, it's awesome. We're definitely looking forward to seeing you play in the field. Obviously we're big fans, so definitely looking forward to that this summer. Now we're going to go to our 5 and 5 segment. More quick hitters here, more fun answers, hopefully. But I'll start with the lacrosse side of things. What are some pregame routines or superstitions you have?
I'm not really superstitious, but I have to stretch my left leg first.
Gotcha. Any reason why, or is it just something you've been doing?
Because it's the non-fixed hip.
Okay.
So I feel like if I stretch that first, it gets warmer first.
Makes sense.
But yeah, I'm not really superstitious, but I guess that's just something I've done, and I kind of make it a superstition at this point. That's really it.
Gotcha. Number 2, what has been your favorite venue to play lacrosse at? And that can be box or field.
Oh man, I'll do both. So box so far, the atmosphere and the place was sick, and that was where the Rock play. I forget what it's called, but it was sick. It was really cool. Just because like it was like the first game of the season too, so it was packed. Like every seat was filled, and it was a really, really sick environment. Field wise, it has to be Why did I forget all these names, man? But it's where Johns Hopkins plays.
Oh yeah, Homewood. Yep.
Homewood. Yeah. How do I forget that? I fully like my good friends, and I forget his stadium name. Oh, I love it there. It was so cool.
No, it's definitely a good one. It's got a lot of history there, of course. Number 3, what's your current stick setup in terms of head shaft and stringing?
All right. Head shaft stringing. So I have both String King. So it's String King shaft, String King head, Mark 2V. And then right now I'm testing out like a mid high pocket with two straight shooters across.
Gotcha. And how does that vary a little bit from the box game? Because you said you mentioned that you had to change between field and box. So how is it kind of different from when you played in college?
So you know how there's two sides of the mesh?
Yeah.
So there's like one side that's like meant to grip the ball and stuff, and the other side's like just the back side of the mesh. So I actually flip around when I string a box stick. I use the smooth back side of the mesh, and I string the same exact pocket. Just I do in my field, but it's just literally it just doesn't like have channel and grab the ball, and it just makes it smoother and snappier release. So yeah, that's how I change it up.
Yeah,
but yeah, it works pretty well.
That's interesting. Yeah. I'm old enough to remember the days where like there wasn't really a difference between the front and the back of the mesh. So now like hearing about like, the technology that's kind of, how it's kind of advanced since then, like gripping the ball. I mean, obviously East Coast made a lot of strides in that, and Adam's, friends with them. But yeah, it's kind of cool to see how the mesh technology, because I remember when I was like in middle school, like if you got your mesh wet, it was like screwed. And now it's like everything's waterproof.
It also like if with like one of the old hard pieces of mesh, I feel like you were making your knuckles bleed when you were trying to pound.
Oh yeah, it took forever to like get that ready to go.
Oh
yeah,
the Jim Wax hard man. You'd walk away with bloody knuckles. I just remember that. Oh.
Absolutely. Number 4, who's a lacrosse player you looked up to when you were younger, or has been kind of a mentor to you, during your career?
When I was really young, I mean, there's so many, but probably Steele Stanwyck at Virginia when I was young. I was growing. I would just like for mentor wise, I would just use older guys that I played with. So like when I was at St. Augustine, it was kind of Joe Isley. He played at Delaware as well. And then when we got to Delaware together, same thing. I mean, we became more as friends than me kind of using him as a mentor. And then now it's just probably the best guys on my team I talk to most and use mentors, probably like QZ or Joe Reziteritz. So they've been great to me, and yeah, that's probably what I'd say for like mentors.
Awesome. And then number 5, if they made an NLL video game, who do you say deserves to be on the cover?
On the cover?
Yeah.
Does he have to be playing?
No, it doesn't have to be a current player. It can be a past player too. We get a lot of legends as answers. So.
Oh man, this could be like really funny, or like, we could totally make this cool by like putting someone really cool on it, or they could just make it funny by putting like a fighter on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would be the like, NHL hits edition? Like who's the enforcer going on the cover for you?
Oh dude, Brett Manny, 100%. You see that his face, man?
Yeah.
It'd be a great cover for that.
But, I love it.
Dude, I don't know for the actual video game, not the hits edition. I mean, they gotta put like John Tavares on it, right? Or like Dan Dawson, because they're number 1 or 2 now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just gotta say personally, I gotta say Dan Dawson because number 6 and number 6.
There we go.
Probably John Tavares if first game,
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah. I love both answers. JT is probably a common answer, but get Brett Manny on there for a special Albany FireWolves.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
it would sell like hotcakes for sure. All right, I'll take the off the field question. So sticking with sports with number 1, Who's an athlete in another professional sport you really enjoy watching right now?
John Rahm's tearing it up.
Yep.
So I'd say that. Yeah, I got into golf recently. I got some lessons and started watching some golf.
Okay.
So, I got to act like I'm good at it now.
Yeah. There's a couple pretty solid courses I feel like in Jersey you could hit up.
Oh, yeah. I don't hit them up because I suck. But yeah, I'll hit them up.
Number 2, what are some hobbies or activities you enjoy when you're not playing?
Oh, dude. I rip all the video games.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Other hobbies? I don't know, man. I just I play lacrosse, and when I get home, I play more lacrosse and coach lacrosse.
Yeah.
When I'm not doing that, I'm working out or playing video games. So
Okay.
I mean, I'm pretty basic.
No, all good.
I'm golf.
There we go. I was reading just before we hopped on, I was rereading that article that USA Lacrosse put out before your senior year. Yeah. Have you tattooed anymore? You give yourself any more tats lately?
I threw it out because it broke, but I gotta get a new one.
Okay.
I know. I wish I could do it because that'd been sick. But this one, I gave myself. It looks bad, but it actually didn't turn out bad. There's definitely worse ones.
Okay.
I have one on the side of my knee that I did for the Toronto Beaches, and that
Nice.
it's just it's kind of cringy, but it's like the little wave like the chicks have. But yeah, that one turned out well too. And that's 2 of the 6 that turned out good. Yeah.
Okay.
So
33%. That's not bad. That's pretty. That's
yeah,
solid.
I'll make those odds.
Nice. All right. Number 3. Favorite spot to vacation.
Wow. Cabo is sick.
Okay.
I'll say Cabo or the Bahamas. Atlantis was pretty cool too.
Nice.
I'm actually going to the Bahamas, not Atlantis, but Bimini, one of the islands. So definitely looking forward to that. I've never been, but I hear good things.
You've never been? Oh, it's sick.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
So weird. Oh, dude, you're gonna have a blast.
I know. I'm pumped. Just to get some beach weather. It's been snowing way too much up north here.
Where are you at?
I'm actually in New Jersey myself. I'm in Brick, New Jersey, so near the shore.
Oh no way.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
there you go.
Definitely miss the beach weather that we're used to during the summer.
Yeah, right. I just got 8 inches the other day. It sucks.
Yeah. We're still, we're shoveled out now, but there's still plenty of snow on the ground.
Yeah, and I'm in Baltimore, so it's either really hot or snow, and there's no nice beach weather here usually. So moving on to number 4, favorite meal, and do you prefer to dine out or cook at home?
Well, when I cook at home, my favorite meal to cook at home is a filet mignon with garlic mashed and some asparagus. That's pretty gas. And then when I go out, oh man, see, I'm just so good at going out to eat. So there's so many good spots I've been to. Wow. There's this place down in Cape May that's pretty sick.
Okay.
It's called the Marion Inn, and it was unbelievable. And there I got filet mignon and lobster. It was sick. So that was probably the best meal I've ever had. So I have to say, the Marion Inn in Cape May, and it just closed down. So RIP. But it was sick.
I was like, oh, that's a great spot. I'll have to visit. And you're like, no, it's closed.
Brutal.
All right. And then my last off the field question. Are you binging anything right now? TV shows, books, podcasts, anything like that? You said you're a big gamer, so.
Yeah. So my girlfriend got me this sick poster for Christmas, right? And it's the top 100 movies in IMDb.
Nice.
So we're going from 100 to number 1 right now. So that's basically what we're binging. And she's never seen Star Wars, right?
Oh, wow.
Crazy. I know.
Yeah.
Full violation. So sorry, I'm looking over this poster. I'm like, what are we on?
Yeah.
But we hit Star Wars on number 89. So
Okay.
I'm like, I'm not letting you watch the 4th Star Wars because that's number 89. So I'm like, I'm
Okay.
not letting you watch the 4th Star Wars. We have to watch it all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
So after an argument with my parents about do we watch it 4, 5, 6 or 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I said, yo, we just got to watch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 because, you know, that's the order. I know it's not chronologically correct, but we can watch it that way. Sorry. So now we're on the 4th one. We watched 1, 2, 3 the last week. So yeah, we're binging the Star Wars right now, but I've seen them a million times. I just can't believe she hasn't at all.
Yeah. Well, when if you do watch them in the order, like chronological order, not the order that they were released, they kind of get better actually. Cause you know, the original trilogy is better than the prequel trilogy. So, you know, they kind of get better as you get through 6 and then they get worse. So the 4 through 6 are the best ones.
Dude. No, I was trying to tell him like, dude, you just got to stick out through 1, 2, 3 because 4, 5, 6 is a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, let's just watch them first since they came out earlier. I'm like, dude, you can't go from like Luke, I'm your father, back to Anakin being a kid. Like it doesn't friggin' work. Let's be realistic here. Let's just watch it all the way through. And she had no idea what I was talking about. So you'll see. I just spoiled the biggest twist in movie history. She has no idea what's going on. So yeah.
That's great. Well, that wraps up our 5 and 5. I always like to end on one final question. What's some advice you have for a young player looking to one day play lacrosse professionally?
Oh man. Don't see your work as work, I'd say. So I would come home like from school, get my homework done so I could play lacrosse and so I could go outside. Mm-hmm. So if you can make all of your hard work and working out, if you can make that a habit and something you love to do, that is a way to really get yourself better at the sport, number 1. And number 2, to get yourself on a schedule and to get yourself in the best possible opportunity and space to succeed. So that's probably the first piece of advice I'd say is like try to make your work something you love. And if it feels like work, it's probably just not for you. And then another thing I'd say is like just always seek like help. Like don't ever think you're alone through anything. There's so many people that are willing to help and just guide you through things. Like I have kids that are scared to come to me about advice and ways they could get better just because I'm playing professionally and a good college career. Like I wanted that same information when I was their age, and I definitely could have gotten it, but I just didn't ask because I was just intimidated by these idols I looked up to. So I mean, just don't be afraid to ask for help. That's how you get better. And these people are more than willing to help you, and you just got to ask. So that's probably 2 pieces of advice I'd say.
No, I think that's great for our young listeners. And, you know, I think there is a lot of fear sometimes as a young player to like ask because you don't want to, you know, sound stupid, but that's actually how you learn and you develop. So I think that's some good advice. Well, we appreciate you coming on, Charlie. Enjoyed having you on here. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing, you know, what you guys continue to do with the FireWolves and, you know, see you suit up for the Waterdogs this summer as well. But thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right, so we appreciate Charlie hopping on. He's got 2 games this weekend. They're playing the Swarm back-to-back days on Friday and Saturday. No easy task. The Swarm have a little bit more of a benefit. I know a lot of these guys fly in from all over, so it's not too much of a benefit, but they are starting out at home, whereas both teams will have to travel up to Albany the following day. But Albany, let's talk them a little bit. They got a big win over the Thunderbirds, upset the Thunderbirds, handed them their first loss. Thunderbirds were without Kyle Jackson, who was a healthy scratch. He's been held scoreless the past 3 games before his healthy scratch in this game. And then Clark Peterson wasn't medically cleared either. So a few key pieces there, but Albany got off to a hot start, you know, went up 6-1 and never kind of looked back. Thoughts on this game and how Albany was able to get the win?
Yeah, I think I said it coming into this week that I expected a really good one. I picked the FireWolves in this one just because I think they've been on a good run lately, and I think they're meshing. You know, we talked to Ryan Benesh a little bit ago, and he talked about how after getting dealt that he felt like they were really gelling Charlie said the same thing, just as you heard. So this FireWolves team obviously was super competitive before, when they were still the Black Wolves. So and coming into this year, it took a little bit, but I think they're right back where they were at that time. So I think they're hot. I think they're really strong right now, and I wouldn't want to go up against them. And clearly they have the talent and they have the ability, because they just upset who many say is one of the best teams in the league in Halifax. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes. But yeah, they're definitely on the up.
No, for sure. And, for those bettors out there, I actually placed the future on them at plus 2,500 because, the value's kind of been sucked dry out of the Bandits, Thunderbirds, the Rock, those three teams that we know are like kind of cream of the crop Seals. You could still get a good price on them, around the plus 300 to plus 500 range. But FireWolves, you can put them in that camp of those teams I just mentioned. Obviously, they got off to a slow start going 0-2, but now I think you can put them in that camp again, and they're plus 2,500. So big value there, I think, personally. Again, at the end of the day, you're predicting a champion, and they still have a long road ahead, to win a championship. But I think there's some value there for sure. And if you guys are interested in, lacrosse betting, you should definitely check out Bet on Lacrosse. Dan Newbert does a great job with that show. So definitely listen to him. He has some probably more thoughts than we do on it. But yeah, I agree. I think it was a good win for Albany. Tough one for Thunderbirds too, to kind of have a long layover, have some guys out of the lineup. I think they're going to bounce back though. No easy task playing this Riptide team that's playing really well, despite being 1-4. So definitely, interested to see that matchup coming up, but, it was nice to get behind the scenes look too. I don't know if you've checked them out, Adam, but I think, Tyson Geik and what his team's doing with the Thunderbirds 360 videos. I mean, they're like mini documentaries, close to an hour long, really gives you a behind the scenes look. They've been doing a great job with those, professionally produced. I really think ESPN Plus and TSN should get that up onto their platform if the NL is able to, strike a deal, whatever. I mean, I'm sure the Halifax team would just be gladly to have them host that on their the platform, but you can check those out on YouTube. And I think they're doing a great job that I hope more teams start to replicate. So just want to give them a shout out, because they're putting a lot of work into that content. And I think it's great behind the scenes look at this Thunderbirds team. And I hope more teams start to do it as we progress. Another close one in the East was between the Wings and Swarm. And if history was any indication, we knew this was going to be a 1-goal game. We got another OT game. Wings again come out on top. But thoughts on this game? Tough one for the Swarm again to lose in overtime. But what do you have to say about this Wings team, your Wings team?
Yeah, I feel like we have to think of a name for them. It's cardiac cues. I don't know what it is for the Wings. They love to play these close games, and it sounds like as our pal Brian Andrews says, they're a second half team, man. How they came out down 6-2 and to pull this one out. Two things that I feel like I'm being a dead horse with. That Ben McIntosh trade, it's early in the season still, but the dividends are clearly there. And, with a rush team that is hurting on offense a little, they could use a guy like Ben McIntosh, and it's clearly working out for on the Wings. And he's just an absolute force out there, and they're lucky to have him. And then in cage, Higgins is back. And he had 53 saves in this one, a dominant performance. They really needed him to come up clutch, and he certainly did it. So Mike Poulin had a really good game. Not too shabby for himself for the Swarm, but Higgins got the victory in this one. So the Wings, they're an interesting team. They're a nerve-wracking team to watch just with how they play, but they're coming out on the right end of these close victories this early in the season. So
yeah, no, and playing some tough competition too. And like we said, they've played the most games out of any team so far. So, they got to be pretty happy with a winning record right now at this point in the season. And honestly, knock on wood, the injury bug hasn't hit them too badly as some of these other teams. So sure. I'm sure Coach Day is pretty happy with how this team is playing right now. And, in the other East matchup, the Riptide nearly upset the Bandits. So Riptide get the win in Philly last week. They were huge underdogs, 2.5-point underdogs in that, which, I say huge, but 2.5 points are hard to come by, as we know. And in this game, they almost won outright. They lost in overtime to the Bandits. Chris Cloutier with the overtime game winner. Shocker there, another overtime winner for him. But talk a little bit, what are your thoughts on this Bandits team, almost getting upset by this Riptide team? And what have you seen from the Riptide that leads you to believe that, maybe they can kind of make a run? I mean, right now they're 1-4, so tough road ahead to kind of turn this record around, but they've showed they can compete with the best of the teams.
Yeah, I mean, you can say for kind of the league in general, right? We haven't had many blowouts this season up to this point. And as the Riptide played the Wings tough last week, I was expecting them to come out full throttle this week. I mean, one reason why they're doing so well is a guy named Jeff Teat. I think you've heard of him, right? A couple people think he's a little underrated, but he had 9 assists in this one, had a hattie as well. So, I mean, he's just an absolute dominant force for them. I know I mentioned it on the pods before, but I just keep going back and seeing Steve Orelman's headshot is literally him in full pads with his helmet on. If anyone wants to go check that out, I think I've mentioned that before, but I just crack up every time I see that. But he's been playing well for them, so they're no joke. You can't take them lightly. And any team, you're gonna get sunk by them potentially if you take them lightly. So, but this Bandit squad is so dominant. They were able to pull this one out late. So obviously in OT, and the Bandits scored the last 3 regular time goals in this one. You thought the Riptide were going to pull it out after scoring the first 6 in the fourth quarter, right? But it just shows how strong they are to be able to come back after being down a majority of the game to pull this one out.
Yeah, no, I mean, lacrosse is a game of runs. They were leading 14-10, late in the third quarter. Larson Sundown got a goal to bring it within 14-11, and then it was all Riptide to start the fourth quarter. They were leading 17-14, with half the quarter to go. So, tough one for them to relinquish that lead and have to lose in overtime. I think Coach Ladisor is getting this team to play at a much higher level than they were last season. Obviously, they have a lot of key new pieces. You mentioned Teat, Callum Crawford, Connor Kiernan. I mean, the list goes on. Larson Sundown. Just a lot of talented guys are playing really, really well for this team. Dan Lomas is now back as well, so nice to see him, get activated. But yeah, overall, I like what I've been seeing from the Riptide. But like you said, it says a lot about a team to be able to come away with a victory. And the Bandits, were close to losing this game, but they were able to pull one out. And I still think even if they would have lost this game, I still, put them at the top of the list in terms of top teams. Like I said, tough loss for the Thunderbirds, close win for the Bandits. I still think those are still the 2 top teams. Looking forward to their matchup coming up. But I think we learned a lot more about this Riptide team. And I think, it was kind of just we were waiting for it to happen, a letdown spot for the Bandits. And if this is their letdown, and they're still undefeated, then that's a pretty good spot for them to be in. And shout out to Jake Fox, laying on Sports Center's top 10 with that one-handed, man. Yeah. Well, he faked it one-handed and then he dunked it, and ended up on number 1 on top 10. And we had the AFC and NFC championship game. So pretty awesome accomplishment for him to land on Sports Center top 10. And I'm hoping we see more and more highlights. Helps too that the ESPN deal, I'm sure there's a little bit more of a reason to put, some ESPN highlights up there. And cool teal jerseys too that they wore. Yeah. I really like them. Obviously they wore them to kind of represent scrubs for healthcare workers, had the orange capes on the back or whatever. But overall, I thought the teal looked really, really good. Sometimes teal works better as an accent color. I thought it looked cool on these uniforms. Did you like them? Yeah,
I love them. I absolutely love them. And man, I don't think the anchor on SportsCenter gave that fake enough love.
The fake. No one was talking about the fake.
I know, man. I know it was not that the goal wasn't unbelievable, but I almost appreciated the fake more than the goal itself. So but those jerseys were awesome for sure.
No, absolutely. But that's kind of our quick recap of this weekend. Obviously there's some other games going on. The Rush got get a win as well, after dropping their last 3. So it's nice for them to get back in the win column. Panther City still looking for that second victory, obviously in their season, but could come in this weekend. They kind of have a good spot against this Warriors team, which dropped a game to the Mammoth, their 3rd straight. They're without Mitch Jones and Logan Schuss, and we've learned that Mitch Jones is now placed on IR with an injury. So tough for the Warriors. They get off to a nice 2-0 start, even dropping their next 2 games. I thought they looked good in those games. And then this one, Dylan Ward came up huge in cage. We knew he would bounce back, but a big night for him, 41 saves. Tough one for the Warriors to lose Mitch Jones, though. Was leading the team in points with 29 before his injury. So, it's tough to say that one player can kind of, dampen my outlook on a whole team, but I am worried for the Warriors. Losing a guy like Mitch Jones, he was arguably, MVP candidate before the stoppage last year. So, tough to replace. I still think they're a solid team. I think if Alex Buque, plays well like he did in his first 2-3 games, they'll have a chance to kind of be competitive, but definitely a tough one for them. Let's go to matchups of the week though, Adam. What's your favorite matchup that you're looking forward to the most this upcoming weekend?
Yeah, you mentioned a little bit earlier, it's game 2 of the Swarm FireWolves matchup. I'm excited to see how both teams, after having to travel on short notice, come in to play game 2. So obviously, like I said, I'm high on the FireWolves right now, and the Swarm have continued to play competitively this year. So that's definitely the matchup for me of the week. I'm obviously going to be happy to watch game 1, but I'm curious what game 2 looks like on the weekend for them.
So am I. We don't get too many back-to-back games where it's the 2 teams playing each other again. So definitely a rare situation that we'll enjoy watching. I'm looking forward to the Riptide Thunderbirds. I think the Riptide are live to win this game. I still, when we get to our game picks, I'm going to take the Thunderbirds because they're also looking to bounce back. But I think it's going to be a tight contest. Again, back to the betting side of things, Riptide are 2.5-point underdogs. I wouldn't feel too comfortable about, laying 2.5 points with the Thunderbirds. I think the Riptide, like I said, could potentially win this game. And at the very least, pull within 2 or 3 of this. So I'm looking forward to this game just from an X's and O's standpoint too. I want to see how the Thunderbirds bounce back. It's interesting too, because Thunderbirds tend to have a home field advantage when they play in Halifax, but this year it's not been the case because now they're playing in Hamilton for the next month because of Halifax's restrictions. So no home field advantage there. Good spot for the Riptide, to maybe steal a win. But I also have a hard time believing that the Thunderbirds and Coach Kersey are just going to drop back-to-back games, especially to, what we would say is an inferior opponent of the Riptide. No inferior opponents really in this league, but, that's why I'm kind of on the fence and still leaning Thunderbirds. But that's my matchup of the week to watch. I'll go into my game picks now. Like I said, love the Riptide in this spot, but still going to go Thunderbirds after saying all that. I like the Swarm, at home in this first game. And then I like the FireWolves to get that second game. And then I'm taking Bandits, Rock, Mammoth, and I think Panther City gets their second win against a beaten up Vancouver team. What are your game picks for this week, Adam?
Yeah, I'm pretty similar in most. Going Thunderbirds. I'm swapping the Swarm FireWolves. So while we have each team winning once this weekend, I'm going FireWolves away, Swarm away, sticking with the Bandits, sticking with the Wings, Mammoth, and Panther City getting that second dub, like you said. So a couple differences this week. I had a solid 5-1 week last week, so hoping to continue that and rise up our PLT ranks. But I'm excited for this weekend. It should be a bunch of really fun games.
Yeah, absolutely. Always good in the NLL. Always fun to watch on ESPN or TSN if you're a Canadian viewer. But those are our thoughts on this week's NLL slate. Those were our thoughts on the PLL. We appreciate Charlie Kitchen joining us this episode. Big fans of him. Looking forward to watching him more with the FireWolves this weekend, as well as with the Waterdogs this summer. But we appreciate everyone listening. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review if you enjoyed this episode. Really helps us move up in the rankings and bring you guys episodes every week. But as always, we appreciate you guys listening to another episode of Pro Lacrosse Talk.